So you may be wondering, what does the monarch butterfly mind control have to do with Batman and The Dark Knight Rises? You see, Batman is an anthropomorphic character, taking the aspects of an animal and combining them with a human, thus creating an anthropomorphic character, or a superhero. It's a type of metamorphosis. It's morphing the two together. And you see, a bat of the night is the polar opposite of a butterfly by day. So a bat and a butterfly are actually very similar. They have the same basic bone structure layout. So basically, the bat represents the polar opposite of the butterfly. It represents the nighttime, the moontime, the evilness, and of course the butterfly represents the goodness of daylight. But don't forget that the monarch butterfly is associated with the nighttime moon, which is why the etymology of the very name of monarch means the moon arc, or the arch. And of course, the butterflies flutter. If you look at them, they actually look like little bats flying around, or should I say, the bats look like little butterflies flying around. So bats and butterflies appear to be fluttering when they fly. And of course, bats also eat insects like moths and even butterflies. And they even eat nectar, exactly like the butterfly.
Some flowers only bloom at night, and bats pollinate them when they drink their nectar.
So many bats actually pollinate flowers exactly like the butterfly does. And of course, butterflies group together and they cling on walls, exactly like how bats cling together and hang on walls or caves. And you'll notice that when the bat goes dormant or goes to sleep, it looks like the cocoon of the butterfly. It looks like the casing of a butterfly. So the casing is the casque, or the casket of the vampire bat. And of course, vampires go through a metamorphosis when they change from the human form to the bat form. Exactly like Batman, which is exactly why he can fly. And by the way, you'll notice the colors of the caterpillar is black and yellow, exactly like the logo of Batman. And you'll notice that Batman, like I said earlier, has horns on his head, because the bat appears to have horns on his head, exactly like the caterpillar, which appears to have horns, which are antennae, exactly like the antennae or the horns of the butterfly. Thus, the antennae are like the antlers or the horns. So this is all going to make sense in a few moments, but let me explain. You see, the vampire has vampire teeth that, if you look at Batman's head, or his horns on his head, look exactly like the teeth of the vampire. And of course, the vampire bat has wings and can fly, which is exactly why Batman has the cape, thus the symbolism of flight. Which is exactly why vampires also wear the cape. And of course, you'll find the cape on many evil villains, as well as our superheroes. And of course, the first superheroes that wore the cape were the Knights Templar, which is exactly like the caped Batman, which I'll get back to shortly. So before I continue, I want to first point out that vampires, once again, are closely associated with none other than the color of purple. So this is exactly why you'll find the color purple associated with vampires in Hollywood films, and even children films like Sesame Street. That's why the Count vampire is purple. So anyway, a mask is worn to conceal something, to hide something, which is why Batman wears a mask and wears a cape. A cape is a cap. So a cape conceals something or is a cap on top of something, which is why a bottle has a cap on it. It is concealing the inside, keeping it away from the outside, which is why you wear a baseball cap, or the Jews wear a cap on their head, which is like a hood. And a hood or a cape or a cap is what a thief wears or an evil one wears. It's what the occultists wear. So this is why you'll find Satanists like Anton LaVey, the devil, wearing the cape or the hood. And of course, the devil is known for wearing the cape. Exactly like the trickster magician. Exactly like the Druidic Order, which is exactly why Harry Potter, for example, wears the cape, and of course it's purple. And like I said earlier, the Pope and the clergy of the Catholics also wear the cape as well as the cap. And of course they use the sacred incense or the gas or the smoke of the Spirit. And of course, like I said earlier, they wear the color of purple. Which brings me to the Order of the Freemasons, the Masonic Order. I'm sure you have heard of the third degree, which means you're in trouble and you're gonna get the third degree. You know, like when Batman interrogated the Joker and gave him the third degree and kicked his ass? You see, the third degree is the Master Mason degree, where the initiate or the candidate is blindfolded or hoodwinked. So this is when the candidate is given the third degree and is taken through the ritual death of Hiram Abiff, who was the builder of King Solomon's temple. Hiram Abiff was the chief architect of Solomon's temple and used the cedar woods of Phoenicia to build it. Hiram Abiff was known as the widow's son from the tribe of Naphtali from Tyre, the Phoenician city, thus the purple. And this is exactly why Hiram Abiff is shown wearing the color of purple. So you see, this is why in Freemasonry, the highest degree or the 33rd degree wears the color of purple. The Sovereign Grand Inspectors General, the Freemason Scottish Rite of the 33rd degree. The purple cap, and you'll notice the purple and the golden orange colors together. So go ahead and do a little research and you'll find that the color purple is without question very important to the Freemasonic Order. And of course the highest honor for the Order of Job's Daughters is the Royal Purple Degree. And of course they use the Purple Cross or the Maltese Cross, the cross of the Order of the Knights Templar. And of course you'll find the same Templar cross on the Catholic Order. So the cross represents the order of the Templar Knights, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, and they protected the Christians from the Muslims, which is exactly why Christianity has the symbol of the cross of the Knights Templar. And of course the cross dates back to the ancient pagan Germanic, Gaelic, Scottish, Celtic cross, as well as the sacred ancient Ankh of Egypt, which is the thoracic vertebrae of the bull spine. So although the cross can represent both life and death, it mostly represents death, which is why you'll find the cross on a tombstone. And you'll also find the cross being used as the symbol of death, which is why when you X'd something out, it means that you killed it and gave it death, which is why we have the term Xmas, which means Christmas or Christmas, because this is the time of the year when the annual year dies, thus December. You see, December is part of the Ember months, which are all 2 months off. You see, December, although it's the 12th month, decim means 10. Thus, in Roman Latin numerals, the X equals 10. So the X equals 10, and the 10 is the end. So obviously blood is the color of red, which is exactly why the X, or the cross, is covered in blood red, which is exactly why the cross of the religion of Christianity represents Jesus, who is the one that is crossed out or X'd out and sacrificed with the red cross of blood. And this is exactly why we have the cross, or the X, of the red blood of the Red Cross, because the Red Cross deals with blood and, of course, death, which is why their van says disaster relief. And of course, they want you to donate your blood, and then they turn around and sell it for millions. So you see, this is exactly why the Knights Templar use the symbol of the red cross, because it represents the red bloody cross of the red bloody sword.
The Knights Templar defended the Holy Land. Their tools were bloodshed and prayer.
So what are vampires known for? They're known for drinking and sucking blood. You see, there's a long history of vampires and the Knights Templars, whether they fought the vampires or whether they were vampires themselves.
Founded in the 12th century, these Christian warrior monks were an unbeatable force for nearly 200 years. Then they suffered a spectacular fall from grace. Tried for heresy, they were accused of practicing strange rituals. Accusers said they spat on the cross, worshipped a severed human head, and engaged in perverse sexual acts.
So the Knights Templars were associated with vampires as well as worshipping Baphomet or Baphomet. They are also accused of drinking blood from a human skull, a fallen foe. So these bowls, or drinking cups, or skull cups, can be found to this very day even. In fact, did you know that when you cheers or celebrate and toast, that you're actually doing an ancient ritual of celebrating and drinking and being merry after the battles the warriors would drink after the hard, long battles they fought? And you see, the Scandinavians are the ones who say skål or skull. It means the skull, the head, which is why Old Norse skull is a bowl. So whether the Vikings actually used to wear horns on their head in ancient times, or whether they drank from a horn, or whether they drank from a skull or a bowl, you see, these are signs and signals giving off a sacred hidden message of esoteric wisdom, the symbology, which is a symbol. And by the way, you go to school. That's correct. When you go to school, you're actually going to skull, because that's exactly what it means, because that is where you learn from, your head, your skull. And of course they have the bell that rings for the time of indoctrination. The bell means the white light, the light of enlightenment. And you will also find the bell at the church, because it's time for more indoctrination. And real quickly, I want to point out that the Viking team uses the color scheme of none other than purple and the golden orange. So we know that the elders and the elite of the world, of the illuminated Illuminati, are the ones that are death cult worshippers, making blood sacrifices, thus their obsession with necrophilia. And of course, our former president even belonged to the cult of the skull and bones, a clear symbol of the worship of death.